to tell you something you may have never considered. But once you hear it, it's going to change the way you look at the SHRM exam questions. There is a common goal in every single SHRM question. And that goal is to advance the organization's strategic goals. Now, you might have heard that in passing because everybody says it, but nobody explains it. So nobody really understands what it means. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly what that means so that you can start to look at the questions through the lens that SHRM uses when the test questions are written. Now, first, I want to start off by telling you to give this 5 minutes of deep thought. Why is it important to advance the organization's strategy? I want to give you an analogy to help you to bring that into focus. Let's say your goal is to take your dog for a walk, but you have to be back home by 7 because your favorite show is going to be on. Now, in your mind, you're probably already setting things up to make that happen. You know what time you need to leave. You've picked the route. You've already gotten the leash out. You're doing all of the things so that you can make sure that at 7 o'clock, you're back home. But now let's say that on your walk, you see your neighbor and they want to talk for a little while. The longer you talk to that neighbor, the more behind schedule you get. Not because you didn't plan, but because she is not aware of your goal. So what do you have to do? You need to communicate your goal. Hey, neighbor, I would like to talk to you, but I'm on a time crunch. I have to be back by 7. Now, she's either on board or not, but either way, you have to keep moving. Now, let's say your child comes along and they keep stopping because they want to pick flowers or they want to play with the dog, whatever it is. It's all fun for them, but it's slowing you down. So what do? You have to motivate them to come along to buy into your goal. You may say, hey, if you help me to keep on track, we can have ice cream later. If they still don't cooperate, you might even have to pick her up and bring her along. Now, do you want to carry her? Probably not. But it might be the best way to stay on track. And then if the dog suddenly doesn't want to walk, you're going to adjust. You might change routes, or you might give some treats that you brought, or you maybe even carry the dog. But the goal isn't changed. You have to be back home by 7. That's strategic thinking. You've got a clear goal. You're making decisions to protect it and to support it, and you are adjusting as things come up so that you can achieve your goal. SHRM is testing the same logic when they're testing the situational questions. Which choice keeps the organization on track? Not which one's the easiest, not which one is the most popular, which one supports the long-term goal. Any problem, whether it's a people problem or a process problem or a culture problem that is standing in the way of the strategy has to be moved. Because if it wasn't hurting the strategy, it wouldn't be worth addressing. So on test day, the answer that SHRM is looking for is the one that helps move the organization forward. You're not just looking for the answer that's nice or the one that's legal or ethical. You're looking for the one that creates long-term progress toward the strategic goals. That's the mindset shift. So now I'm going to give you the 6 ways that these ideas show up on your test, and I'm going to tell you how you can spot these. Let's start with the biggest one, talent optimization, and that's probably obvious. Because talent is the number one resource a company has to reach its strategic goals. You can have the best business plan in the whole world, but without the right people, it's not going to happen. So what does this mean for you on the SHRM exam? It means that you need to think employee forward. Ask yourself, does this option keep employees engaged, skilled, and able to perform at a high level? You'll see this in questions about training or maybe performance issues in succession plan, and especially relationship management. The right answer is probably the one that builds the employee's capability and it strengthens the workforce. So if you're stuck between 2 good options, pick the one that strengthens your people, because that strengthens your strategy. Strong people, strong strategy. For example, if you're asked about an employee that consistently is a poor performer, The answer isn't going to be to discipline that poor performer. It might be something like evaluate the training needs or realign the role, but it has to be something that builds the people because that is your anchor. Next is risk mitigation because risk slows down the strategy. Legal risk, reputational risk, compliance risk, all of those things drain time and money, and they take the focus away from the organization's goal. So SHRM is going to test whether you can see risk and remove it. When you see a question that involves risk, look for the answer that addresses a long-term fix. For example, don't just discipline the one employee who crossed the line. Look for the option that prevents it from happening again. We'll look for the one that challenges the structure or changes the policies. Risk mitigation is strategic when it protects the future, not just reacts to the problem. You should not be choosing the answer that reacts to risk, like firing somebody. You should be removing the source of the risk, looking for the root cause. Now let's talk about data, because data tells us what's working, what is not working, where we need to focus, and what's wasting our time. On the SHRM exam, data shows up all of the time. It's not just in the form of numbers either. Look for questions where someone is making a decision and ask yourself, did they first gather information to guide that decision, or are they just guessing? Questions like these are an easy layup because you know that is the first thing that you have to do. The right answer is usually the one that brings in metrics or KPIs or employee feedback, benchmarking, or any kind of trends. Because when HR uses data, we're not just guessing. We are making evidence-based decisions. Next is change enablement. This is a huge one because the strategy is never static. Think about the dog walking scenario. When we went in with the strategy, in several instances, the strategy had to be changed. When we brought the child on the dog walk, we didn't expect to have to spend money on an ice cream, but it is the better answer to invest in that ice cream than to risk missing the show. Businesses are evolving in the same way, so that's how we use data to guide our decisions. On test day, look for questions that deal with restructuring or mergers. Tech upgrades, it's a new one, policy shifts, or even internal resistance, and then ask which answer helps people adjust or understand or stay engaged during this change. The right answer will usually include things like communication or training or planning for the resistance. That's what strategic HR looks like in a change environment. It helps people to keep moving forward without falling apart. So avoid answers that just deliver the change without supporting people through the change, because strategy fails when people don't move with you. And SHRM tests whether you're supporting people during those transitions and not just pushing them through, right? You want to gently guide them through the change. Next is stakeholder engagement. The organization can't move forward unless the right people are involved and supportive. And SHRM wants to see whether you can identify first who needs to be at the table, and then how do you build the relationships with those people to get the results you want. So watch for questions where the leaders or the managers or even the employees are resistant. Right? Clues like lack of alignment or low participation, that shows resistance. One common trap is jumping straight into execution without getting that stakeholder buy-in. For example, a new performance process that's being introduced to the organization. Now, one option might be to launch that system immediately, but it would be better if you got buy-in before you roll the system out. Because when you get people involved, they support the system, which supports the strategy. And that's the way that SHRM is thinking. Okay, finally is alignment. This is really the umbrella that covers everything else because every function has to move in the same direction that the business is going. And this is another one of the 6 that shows up everywhere on the exam. It's in questions about HR strategy or talent or leadership, just everywhere. And here's another tip. If you get stuck, zoom out and ask yourself which answer aligns HR actions with the company's goals. That's the one thing SHRM is trying to lead you to. A common trap here is picking an HR-driven answer that feels right because it's aligned with the policy or ethics, right? But it doesn't accomplish what the business is trying to accomplish. Alignment is what makes us strategic partners, and that's what the exam is testing for. All right, so let's bring all of this together. Every SHRM question is really asking you one thing. Does it move the business forward? That's it. Does it guide the organization to the strategic goals? And if not, what adjustments do I need to make to get us there? And the 6 ways that it shows up are talent optimization, there is risk management, data-driven decisions, change in enablement, and stakeholder engagement and alignment. Right? So if you keep these in the back of your mind when you're reading the questions, it will completely change how you approach the test. And it'll make it way easier for you to spot the best answer on the exam. Hopefully this helped. Hopefully it gave you a bird's eye view. I have a tips, tricks, and techniques class that is coming up, and I'm going to give you every tip that I've learned so far. We're going to go more in depth about this topic and other topics. And I will leave a description to that a link to that in the description box. Of course, if this video was helpful for you, leave me a comment, like, subscribe. That's helpful to me because it helps more people to see the video. And also, I'm about 70% caught up on my email, so I should be responding to some older emails now. If you sent me an email and it's been a few weeks and you still haven't heard a response, I'm getting there. I am coming to you. Just give me a little time. I'm working through all of them. You guys you won't believe, I literally get 1,000 emails a day. Like, even if I clear out 1,000 emails today, I will have 1,000 more tomorrow. So just give me time. I'm going to be responding to everybody as swiftly as I can. All right, I'll see y'all next time. Bye.